Hi, welcome to Pandesal with Wilson Lee Flores. This is brought to you by 86-year-old Kamuning Bakery Cafe, the first and oldest bakery in Quezon City. We have been baking happiness since 1939. Any questions you'd like to ask? This podcast will discuss all kinds of topics and questions.
Hi, Sir Wilson.
Yes.
My question po is, with all the corruption happening in the Philippines, do you think death penalty should be our answer to the problem of the corruption?
That is a great question about death penalty, corruption. Yesterday, all over the world, all over the news, it was reported that on Sunday, September 28, 2025, a court in China sentenced high-ranking minister of agriculture in China to death. He was sentenced to death for corruption, and also that has been a practice in China in recent years. They had been executing corrupt officials not only in government, not only in the military, including high officials in the private sector, including private corporations. So that is, to me, very thought-provoking news. A lot of people reacted to my Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook posts about that news. Many people messaged me agreeing that maybe in the Philippines we should probably restore death penalty for plunder. Plunder meaning big-time corruption. Maybe that's the only way to shock the thick-faced politicians and corrupt contractors and bureaucrats in our society. They are not only shameless, they don't fear retribution, they don't fear imprisonment. Unfortunately, in our Philippine society, many of the high officials, powerful people, feel they are above the law. They have many lawyers, they have many political allies, connections. And through the years, unfortunately, every big-time corruption scandal erupts in the Philippines. It is soon after forgotten, covered up by new scandals, new controversies. Like the latest one that I could remember several years ago was the Napoles scandal. How many people jailed among the top officials? How many ill-gotten assets and wealth confiscated? I don't see anyone still in jail up to now. So only Napoles is in jail. And I heard and I read Napoles is in jail not for corruption, not for illegal activities regarding corruption and plunder, but about alleged kidnapping of her own relative. So crime does pay in the Philippines, unfortunately. The only way we can curb or lessen or solve the serious corruption problem if the government will use serious political will and make sure that people are punished. Unfortunately, through the many years up to now, every time a corruption scandal happens, they have show trials, theatric performances of investigations in the Congress, investigations by the Blue Ribbon Committee in the Senate, and also investigation by special committees or commissions. But how many of these investigations before up to now, how many have ended up punishing real masterminds? How many powerful people have actually been jailed? How many of these powerful, corrupt people have actually had their assets, their illegal wealth confiscated back to the government? Question mark yan. Aside from China being very strong-willed in anti-corruption drive, South Korea is one other good example I want to cite, and I hope our leaders and even other sectors will push to follow. Do you know in South Korea in recent years, 4 presidents of South Korea have gone to jail. Out of the 6 past presidents, 4 have gone to jail. So walang sinasanto sa South Korea and China. Meaning, no matter how high you are, how famous you are, how well connected you are, if you commit crimes like corruption, many people in the Philippines do not remember that corruption is a crime. Look at Diskaya. Sara Diskaya was videoed by the media saying, pagandahin yung mga meme ko dyan ha. She half jokingly, not seriously, even said to ask the media and the public to create cute, beautiful memes with her scandal. That means even the contractor, not high-level official, is not remorseful, is not afraid of punishment. Another example I want to cite is Singapore. It is not a coincidence that Singapore is the wealthiest country in Southeast Asia. There are 10 countries in ASEAN. Singapore is the smallest. Singapore has no arable lands. It has no resources. It is a very small city state, but it is the wealthiest country in ASEAN. One of the reasons it is the wealthiest because it is the most forceful and the most consistent, the most serious in anti-corruption. Do you know, I could not forget reading the news in 1986. There was a high-ranking cabinet minister of Singapore. He was accused, I think the name was Mr. Te, you can Google, a cabinet minister of Singapore accused of corruption. Out of shame, nahiya, sobrang shame, he committed suicide in 1986. That shows you how serious corruption is a crime in many Asian countries. I have a question. How come we in the Philippines, we pride ourselves as the largest Christian nation in Asia? In fact, before East Timor became independent, we in the Philippines, we were the only majority Christian country in Asia before. Now the largest because East Timor is a small country. How come we are majority Christian country? We have Christian moral values. The Bible teaches us in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal, bawal magnakaw. How come our politicians are the most scandalous, the most shameless in stealing public funds, government money, which could have been used for public schools, for free public clinics and hospitals and roads? Another thing, what is the difference between corruption in the Philippines and other Asian countries? How come there are other countries with corruption? Why is the Philippines worse? Why is our corruption worse? The difference is in China, in South Korea, in Vietnam, and other countries, there are examples of corruption. But the difference is the government officials there, they have somehow a limit to their corruption. Maybe 10%, 20% of the projects. But one thing different, you go to China, you go to South Korea, you go to Vietnam, all these countries, they have corruption once in a while, but the projects are constructed well, good quality. People benefit from the roads. People benefit from the public schools. People really gain benefits from bridges, dams, flood control, and public hospitals. Unfortunately, here in the Philippines, especially today, 2025, we have a horrible, shameless crisis of chaotic corruption. That is what I describe, chaotic corruption. Why? Not only corruption is evil, unjustifiable stealing, but the worst part is zero delivery. They don't deliver good roads. The politicians do not deliver good flood control. Zero good flood control. Fake flood control projects. That's why you have ghost projects, ghost bridges, ghost highways, even ghost employees. So horrible. not only ninakaw yung pera, they stole the money, they did not deliver even adequate roads, adequate bridges. They don't even deliver good public school buildings. That is the worst part of corruption here in the Philippines.
Sir, another question po. To be fair, what could go wrong if death penalty becomes a law?
Very good question also. The problem with death penalty in the Philippines in the past up to now, because of the corrupt criminal justice system, which is allegedly biased against poor people. So the rich people with connections, with the best lawyers and resources could escape death penalty. And you have in the past in the Philippines, usually poor criminals without lawyers, without connections, ending up mostly the ones being killed in the death penalty. That is the big problem. And also, most of the people in the Philippines are Catholics. Many in the Catholic Church seem to be against death penalty. So many people argue that the death penalty in the Philippines before up to now has been biased against poor people. So many poor people are executed, death penalty, but many rich people escape. So what happened years ago under former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who is a devout Catholic, she pushed for stopping the death penalty in the Philippines. But personally, I am in favor of death penalty for corruption in government, for especially plunder. Hindi ordinary corruption, yung big corruption, including death penalty for heinous crimes. Several different horrible crimes like murder, rape, kidnapping, many horrible crimes, and terrorism also. In fairness, some of the best countries in Asia, China, Taiwan, also Singapore, they have the death penalty. Maybe we could learn something from our Asian neighbors.
Sir, my third question po is,
Yes.
what reforms do you suggest so that we can solve the horrible crisis of the government corruption in the Philippines today?
I'll drink coffee muna. Pandesal, we have ube pandesal and other pandesal here at Kamuning Bakery Cafe. Number one, I think reform in the country. Unfortunately, here in the Philippines, every time people shout corruption, scandals, corruption, investigation, usually what our politicians do to make people less angry, hoping they could escape public anger, is by removing a few faces in government. What our government officials would do, allow some cabinet ministers, secretaries to resign, some speaker of the House, some congressmen, some senators to resign. Unfortunately, that is not enough. That will continue the malignant cancer of corruption in the Philippines. I describe corruption in the Philippines as a social cancer. It is not a serious illness. It's fatal. It will cause the death of our democracy and our economy. I think number one, we should have systemic reforms. It should not be just reforming the faces. It's not like changing the faces. There is a simple-minded mindset in our political circles that maybe you elect better people, you elect saints, you elect less corrupt people, it will change the whole country. Some people think you just change faces and people. I disagree. I think the reform should be systemic, meaning there should be built-in systemic changes in the whole way we run the government. How do we award contracts? How do we negotiate contracts? How do we negotiate and approve the government budget of the Philippines? Can we scrutinize in public all the details? Can we have public disclosure of how the budget is divided and to whom the budgets are given? which congressman, which governor, which mayor, which cabinet secretary, even office of the president, vice president, everything about the budget should be disclosed in public. There should be check and balance, real check and balance. There should be, let us learn from Singapore and Hong Kong. Singapore and Hong Kong, they have special committees or commissions in government, but not under the president or the prime minister, independent constitutional body for anti-corruption investigation and punishment. That is one way to check on corruption in the government. Another suggestion that I have, I've been writing this in my Philippine Star column before, and I want to reiterate now here in Pandesal with Wilson Lee Flores. We have this system in our government that is like a comedy. What is a comedy in the Philippines? The salaries of government leaders is like a comedy, like a joke. The government of the Philippines, we have many officials running or helping run the affairs of 110 million people in the Philippines. But the salary of the Philippine president, the vice president, the salary of the cabinet secretaries are not higher than the salaries of the CEOs or chief executive officers of the biggest corporations in the Philippines. I propose that we increase all the government salaries, especially leaders in charge of many important authorities. The government salary should be comparable or higher than the highest salaries of big corporations in the Philippines or banks or multinationals in the Philippines. And then we streamline the number of government employees, not bloated, inefficient bureaucracies with too many people doing too few things and inefficient. We have efficiency and higher salaries, and then increase the punishment for corrupt officials. One of the reasons Singapore is very clean and efficient in governance, they have good government. They pay their government leaders higher salaries than even American government officials. So in Singapore, you do not have to steal or cheat or do pork barrel and lying to steal money from the government to live a comfortable life. In Singapore, if you are prime minister, if you are cabinet minister, you are paid very highly, as high as private sector giant corporations. So those are some of my suggestions. Of course, my other suggestion is really restore the death penalty, but that will not be possible in the Philippines. I'm sure they will not approve it. The first people who will disagree to approve will be the politicians because the politicians will be the victims of death penalty, so it will not happen. But that is my last proposal, death penalty for corrupt officials.
Sir, you talked about the public should know which budget goes to where. The public should know what those people are
Yes.
doing, etc., etc. Do you think that full transparency of government documents
That-
be a law?
That is a non-stop question. It's not been addressed by all the politicians in the Philippines. There is a proposal. There's a proposal about freedom of information. I think the Freedom of Information Bill has not been approved by the Philippine government up to now. There should be full disclosure of all public documents, public transactions. The most controversial is the way the government budget is decided. There is very controversial, opaque, shadowy, secretive, almost criminal way our legislators in the recent years, the way they conduct the budget of the country, the way they finalize and create the national budget is very scandalous. The national budget of the Philippines is several trillion pesos every year and mostly financed by taxpayers like you and I. All of us pay taxes. Every pandesal that we sell and every peanut that we sell, we have to pay taxes to the government. and then not enough the budget for the country. So every year, our government, the politicians, have to seek foreign loans from abroad. So every year, we keep borrowing money to finance the government budget. But unfortunately, they are stealing the budget. So those are some reforms. I agree with your question. Public disclosure of all documents, all transactions, all procedures, especially the way the budget is created, the national budget, plus all the projects.
Sir, what is your reactions to extravagant and wasteful spending of corrupt politicians and their children?
Yes, before I answer that question, I'd like to open this, my new favorite at Kamuning Bakery Cafe. Aside from eating pandesal, I love eating our delicious peanuts. Roasted peanuts by our talented cooks. Your question about my reaction to, sorry, ito na ng ballpen gagamitin ko to open. Yan, this is delicious. If this is clean and freshly roasted, so special hygienic packaging. I feel very angry, like everyone in the Philippines, about the extravagant and mindless spending and overspending by corrupt politicians, their children, the corrupt and crooked contractors, DPWH engineers. What is funny, what is even funnier is the scale of the extravagance. In this era of the social media, almost everything cannot be kept a secret nowadays. People will know where the stolen money is. But to me, what is shocking is the sheer stupidity of the corrupt officials, of the corrupt engineers, the stupidity of the crooked contractors, engineers of DPWH and their children, because they are even bragging about their unexplained wealth. They are bragging in media interviews, in social media blogs. To me, many of their spending is even tasteless. What is sad is they don't even know how to spend it well. In other countries, some corrupt officials at least use stolen money to do good things. Some people will get the stolen money, build museums, build hospitals. One example I want to say is the mother of the president, former First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos. She has been accused of corruption in the 1960s, 1970s, but at least she has built hospitals, heart centers, cultural centers. Even if people are angry at her corruption, somehow she had done some good things with her power and even alleged corruption. But these Nepo babies, the so-called corrupt politicians, I saw on video, social media, mindless, tasteless, idiotic extravagance, very tragic, and all of those has worsened this corruption crisis in the whole country even more, because it made people more aware of the problem. It made the problem viral. It made the problem personal. Thank you very much for your questions and for sending messages. Please listen to this podcast regularly and share to others and subscribe. Visit also Kamuning Bakery Cafe every day. We are open here every morning 5 a.m. up to 9 p.m. Mondays to Sundays, including holidays. Thank you very much.